I'm from the north. I've not come here to say winter is coming, but instead I will bring you ideas from the Arctic. As entrepreneurs, we find value in looking at places where others are not looking. And not many people are looking at Iceland, but I will show it to you. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and about Iceland. So my name, Gunnar Tryggvason, means loyal warrior. And we have a and this is I'm married, 3 children, and a Labrador, and I love to spend time in the spectacular Icelandic nature. I also love basketball. Here, my son and I, we are at the court side on this year's NBA playoffs, where we saw Denver Nuggets champions against Phoenix Suns. We even got Kevin Durant's jersey from that game. So Iceland is geographically situated between Europe and North America. And I myself have been split between the two. I'm educated in the US at Wharton and Stanford. And I've done business in Europe and in 9 different countries. Now, here's a picture from my home. These are the northern lights. And this picture is taken 2 years ago, just 30 minutes from my house. There was a volcanic eruption. And there's actually now very likely that any day a new volcanic eruption will start just by the Blue Lagoon. So if you have not seen either the Northern Lights or volcanoes, you gotta come visit Iceland. Now, movies love Iceland. We've had some of the best movies of all time taken in Iceland. We have Game of Thrones, James Bond, Star Wars, Tomb Raider, Batman, Fast and the Furious. The landscapes are truly out of this world. Now, a little bit about our economy. So we have a free market system, but combined with a strong welfare system, sometimes called the Scandinavian model. Our main sectors are fishing, tourism, and green energy. We don't actually, all our energy is green, it's hydro and geothermal. We don't export any of our energy, but we use it to build up production in Iceland, which we then export. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the connection between Iceland and China. So, as a student of business, I've been very fascinated by the economic success of China, going from poverty to like the highest GDP in the world in 40 years is truly remarkable, and there's a lot of wisdom behind that rise. So, but what could Iceland and China possibly have in common? Iceland is among the least densely populated places in the world, and China among the most. There's different ethnicity, and we are on the opposite side of the world. Exactly 7,777 kilometers from each other. But just like in a romantic relationship, opposites attract. And we do have a lot in common. We have a long written history. We have roots in farming, and there are many similarities between the economic rise of the two countries. So in Iceland, we're very proud of our history. It was written by the Vikings, very fascinating tales written about 900 years ago. It's not as long as the Chinese written history, 3,500 years old. Some say 5,000 years old. But it's very long in the context of many countries, especially young countries like the USA or Australia. Our roots are in farming. Iceland 100 years ago was a complete farming society, and it very much defines who we are. And we were also among the poorest nations, if not the poorest nation in Europe 100 years ago. But today we are among the most prosperous nations in the world per capita. So there's been strong friendship between Iceland and China, especially in the last 2 decades. Iceland was the first country to recognize China as a developed market economy. China came to the aid of Iceland after Iceland had the financial crisis in 2008. And Iceland invited China to join as an observer the Arctic Circle in 2013. And there is a air service agreement between the countries, among the first in the world, and which led to 20-fold increase in tourists from China coming to Iceland in the period 2010 to 2019. Now, the person that did the most to establish this bond was our visionary president, Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, who served between 1996 to 2016. Here you see him with Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao during official visits. And here with Chairman Xi Jinping. Look how young and happy Xi Jinping is on this picture. And I had the pleasure of meeting him 3 weeks ago before my trip. He's 8 years old now today, and so full of wisdom. And I think it's our role today to carry the torch and continue the momentum and create shared prosperity for the two countries. Now, I would say Iceland's main contribution to China so far has been geothermal energy. It started with Jiang Zemin's visit to Iceland in 2002. He was an engineer, and he saw the potential of geothermal energy for China. So after that, there was a joint venture established between Iceland company, Arctic Green Energy, and Sinopec, GE, and it's been transforming energy in China. About 50% of energy in the cities in China is from oil and coal, and we're now working, or the company is working to make. It will be first smokeless city in China. Is happening now because of this collaboration, and I'm proud to say that the CEO of Arctic Green Energy, he's on the board of my private equity firm. There's another interesting, although a bit unfortunate development, that because of global warming, there's a shipping route opening up across the North Arctic, and this will make the the trip compared to the southern route, which is the current route, it's 25% shorter, and the ships can carry 25% more load because of the depth of the ocean when they travel the northern route. And Iceland is just in the middle of that route, so it goes over Russia, and it's access to Europe and to North America. And the first Chinese ship sailed there in 2013, and I had the fortune of boarding the ship when it came to Iceland. Now, I want to discuss a little bit also new opportunities. So I would say one of the incredible things with Iceland is the joy of being alone in nature. I mean, you don't get to experience that a lot, being in Hong Kong or even in China. It's a picture of me fishing in August this year, and apart from my wife, who was with me, there was not a single person in 10-kilometer radius. Can you imagine that? So this you can enjoy if you come to Iceland, but only if you don't come all at the same time. Yeah. And this is our beautiful capital, Reykjavik, where 2/3 of the population lives. And the city has everything to offer for knowledge workers, like here in Hong Kong. We have an international airport that has frequent flights to Europe and the US and North America. It has 2 harbors, modern city, amazing nature, green energy, clean water. And international investors have caught on to the possibility of investing more in Iceland. We had investors from Alaska, United Arab Emirates, and Malaysia buy up hotels in Iceland. I'm proud to say as well that my private equity firm, we own a hotel chain as well in Iceland. And we had, as I mentioned before, a big surge in tourists that came from China up until 2019, but COVID has had an effect on that now. But I still think there's a lot of opportunity to increase travel, especially because of the air service agreement that I mentioned before. And to be more specific, I think in terms of potential opportunity, Iceland is a good test market for products. It has a very good mix of the American and European mentality, plus the interesting geographic location. There's a possibility as well in, I would say, in the film industry, in the local film industry. I know the Hong Kong film industry has been strong historically, and the government supports that as well by subsidizing production. And it's an opportunity to bring the audience a different world than they're used to seeing. This is something that Hollywood discovered many years ago. And we have a very strong fishing culture. We had a unicorn startup that was sold to international investors earlier this year that used fish skin to treat wounds. And last but not least, I think there are unique opportunities in the trade agreement that exists between China and Iceland, and because Iceland also has free trade agreement with European countries. Iceland is not in the European Union, but it has this free trade agreements. And there's no free trade agreements. There's not a free trade agreement between Europe and China. So I think Iceland is quite an interesting offers interesting possibilities for Hong Kong startups that want to gain a foothold in Europe. So finally, I want to tell you a little bit about my firm. We are the leading private equity firm in Iceland. We have a diverse set of investors. We've had very good results in our investments. Our first fund is tracking on 24% gross IRR, and our second fund is tracking on 25%, even though it's a younger fund, early days for that fund. We have low financial leverage on investments compared to what you usually see in private equity, especially in Western markets. We have all our deals are between 0 and 3 times EBITDA leverage. And we also benefit that we have lower purchasing multiples in Iceland because private equity is relatively new in Iceland. And we've even made a couple of acquisitions on 3 times EBITDA multiple. And we will next year be raising a $250 million fund, and we will for the first time include international investors. Here's my core team. We have a perfect mix of male and female, yin and yang. And my team would welcomes you if you come to Iceland, and I see the role of our firm as well to make bridges between Iceland and the international community. So that's it. Sesi Daka.